In the second unresolved problem segment tonight, growing concern in the United States over Islamic terror. A new Pew poll suggests that 53% of Americans have a deep concern when it comes to Islamic extremism. That's up from 32% in 2011. The poll also reveals that 70% of Americans are worried about ISIS. Joining us now from Irvine, California for reaction, Ahmed Yunus, author of the book American Muslims Voir Dire, and from Cleveland, Jasser, author of the book A Battle for the Soul of Islam. Now, let me start with Dr. Jasser. 70% of Americans concerned about ISIS. Should they be?
Absolutely. I mean, what in God's name is it going to take for us to develop a strategy that identifies Islamism as the problem? If we're going to engage Muslims in the need to reform, to identify it, as long as we identify violent extremism simply as the symptom, we're never going to empower Muslims to do the reform. So that fear from America is because our commander-in-chief doesn't identify the problem. We're dealing with the symptom of violent extremism, and because we don't identify it, Americans are fearful. We need to channel that fear into a plan for a political movement against global political Islam, which inspires the Abdelazizes, the Nidal Hassans, and others. Americans get it. They just want to move forward from that.
Mr. Yunus, 70% of Americans are concerned. Should we be?
Well, the same poll says that Muslim majority countries, particularly the ones in the Arab world, have significantly higher percentages of concern also about ISIS, then the American response is just above 50%. Of course we should be. We are living in a time in which sickness and criminality associated with all kinds of ideologies, be it the ideologies behind American white supremacist racism or ideologies that are sourced in Islam and Muslim understandings of Islam.
I want to stay on this specifically Chattanooga shooting. You know what it seems to me? It seems to me that groups like CARE and other Islamic groups will come and they'll clean up the mess after the blood is already spilled, rather than coming forward and saying, you know what, guys, we're moderate Muslims. We're worried about the extremists. Let's call them out. Here's a group. Keep your eye on them. Why is it always in the aftermath of bloodshed instead of in front of it, sir? Mr. Yunus?
I think that's unfair. I'm not here to defend CARE. I've never defended CARE. But I think that's unfair. The vast majority of institutions in Muslim America, including CARE, are very proactive in working with Muslims around the country to condemn, to educate, to enhance the literacy of young people in being able to push back against these terrorist ideologies. I think lumping the American Muslim community with this reality leaves us absent our greatest tool to confront it, which is an authentic, legitimate American contribution that is sourced in a Muslim identity.
So, Mr. Jasser, Dr. Jasser, am I wrong here? Am I being unfair?
Absolutely not. I mean, listen to this. Apologetics, I mean, enough already. When CARE even put out a press release this morning, they said it was about American citizens being attacked. We condemned the act. They didn't mention that these were Marines, and the reason they don't is the bottom line, the intoxicant that creates these radicals is the sense that America is not a force for good, is a negativism towards our military, is a negativism towards this country, and a sense that demonizes America and that creates the pathway of radicalization. So the reason...
No, I agree with that. I actually, wait, Zahdi, I agree with what you're saying. I just think that you're so out of touch that you're not understanding that that actually is not the American reality. What you're saying is true. That is the Islamist narrative.
I'm out of touch. America is seeing our community completely anesthetized while our citizens and our soldiers are being killed on a weekly basis while you're telling me I'm out of touch. You're anesthetized because there's no strategies to counter the ideology. This guy was writing on Facebook. This guy was writing on his blog about establishing Islam, about the negativity of America.
Zahdi, were you at the White House Countering Violent Extremism Summit?
No,
you were not. Were you in the meeting? Were you in the meeting with Joe Biden?
Were you in the Navy 11 years? Have you contributed to your service? This president does not identify the problem.
Zahdi, what you're doing helps terrorists and does not help America, and it does not help Americans.
Your denial enables an obstacle against reform. You don't want to reform. You say the word
I have
reform.
a PhD in Islamic reform. What are you
What good is that doing? You're actually masking. You are the problem because you won't articulate the reform necessary.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Listen, I just brought it up. I would like to see, it would be refreshing for Americans to see these groups, these Muslim groups, stepping up in front of the bloodshed instead of after the bloodshed.
Go to their website. You'll find them condemning. Go to their website.
I promise you I will, sir. Thank you.